Sorry, people, my sincerest apologies. I'm currently in Shanghai, China, and we're having some major technical difficulties with the internet connection here, which is what always happens perpetually when you're trying to present the truth of the living God, Yahweh, to the public. The enemy will always try to get in because the enemy does not want you to know this. Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about before. So Revelation 9 is correlated with Revelation 12, where it talks about the dragon, and there appeared another wonder in heaven from verse 3. And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon its heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, verse 4, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Now, we know that this dragon is Lucifer being cast out of heaven. And we know that because it says here in verse 7, and there was a war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was there place found any more in heaven for them. And the great dragon, which is that dragon in verse 4, but we're here in verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out on the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. I'm just going to go to probably about 11 p.m. here in Shanghai, China time. Now, what this is referring to is this, obviously, this 23rd of September sign, which if we go back to verse 12 in Revelation, verse 1 in Revelation 12 rather, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, which is Virgo, with the sun at her shoulders. So the sun clothes her, and the moon under her feet. You know, on the 23rd of September, that the moon, the constellation of Virgo, and the moon's going to be at Virgo's feet. Then it goes on to say in verse 1, the end of that passage, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, as you can see here. Then I want to go down to verse 5, and this is critical, absolutely critical. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was called up unto God and to his throne. This isn't talking about Yeshua here. What this is actually talking about is talking about the Antichrist. Because if you look at the dragon, which is Lucifer, who is an angel, but he's a fallen angel, he's a fallen anointed cherub, and he gets thrown out of heaven by Michael in a scripture in verse, I think it's verse 9. No, verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Now, if we know anything about scripture, it tells us point blank that stars and angels, they're interchangeable. For me, I think they're stars in the heavens that we see at night. And when they cross over the veil, cross through the veil, through to our domain, they become angels, which is what history evidently reports. Now, if you go over to Revelation 9, it says, from verse 1, the fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. I believe that this is Lucifer of the 23rd of September 2017, which is marked by Rosh Hashanah, which is also incidentally the 3rd day of Tishri. Now we know that the Day of Atonement happened 7 days after that, on the 10th of Tishri. And the reason you know that is because if I go back here, you have the new moon referring back to the first stages of the broadcast of Rev 12 Moedim, because I think we're going to have 3 now because I've been cut off 3 times. But it's really important that you people get this information. So here, this is the moon phase of 2017. So Rosh Hashanah, Passover, Feast of Tabernacles, those are not in order, by the way. They all happen around the new moon. Passover happens on a full moon. And it's Passover that sets the tone for the rest of the Hebrew calendar. Now, if we go to September 2017 to Rosh Hashanah, you see Rosh Hashanah happens from twilight on the new moon to twilight on the 21st, which is the first sliver, which is when it gets, actually, no, sorry, that's wrong. So the first sliver happens on the 21st, the first sighting of the first sliver of the new moon, which is when the shofars are trumpeted. Now, before the 21st, I think the 21st is Tishri 1, if you have a look at it. Yep, Tishri 1. On the 1st of Elul, which is, where is it? Which is the 23rd of August, which incidentally is 2 days after the 21st of August, which is when the Great American Eclipse happened, which also doubles as the Sabbath for this year, which was marked way back on the 10th of April, which was the 14th of Nisan, the festival of Passover, marked by a full moon. And if you look at all these dates, they're marked by new moons. The moon has a 7-day cycle. New moon, generally 7 days later, you have a half moon. Then generally 7 days later, you'll have a full moon. And then it'll start waning back to the half moon after 7 days, and then back to the new moon after 7 days. Now, the critical thing about the 23rd of September 2017 is that's when this is happening. September the 23rd of September 2017. Now, as we can see, a woman clothed with the sun. If you go to Revelation 12, I'll bring it over here. This is what it says. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. Then it goes on to say, and the moon under her feet. Now let's have a look at that. The moon is there. So that's on the 3rd day of the waxing process, which is the waxing phase of the moon, where it waxes on and becomes brighter and brighter until it gets the full moon, half moon, and then eventually the full moon. But this all happens around that full moon, which is that new moon, sorry, which is here. So the new moon happens on the 1st of Tishri. Then you got the festival of trumpets, or Rosh Hashanah, happens over a 2-day period. Then the 23rd sign. Now let's go back to, I was going to show you guys something really critical. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of a sting of a scorpion. Now, if we were to read this literally, 5 months after the 23rd of September, or from the 23rd of September, is apparently when this is all going to go down. Because if you look at it from verse 7, it says, the locusts look like horses prepared for battle. So this is talking about the chimera. Now, if you know anything about the Nephilim, if you go back to Genesis 6 and then read through the book of Enoch, the Nephilim were the progeny of the fallen angels or the watchers and the daughters of men, as described in Genesis 6. Now, why is this important? Because if you go to the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees, it tells you that in Noah's day, these Nephilim, the second generation of Nephilim, possibly the third generation of Nephilim, they were mixing their seed with animals which we know today as bestiality. And they were coming up with Pan. If you know anything about Pan, he's the Greek god. He's a Greek god of the forest, and he plays a flute, which is where you get the panpipe, etc. All those associations. And the reason why I'm saying that is because all throughout Greek mythology, which I don't think is mythology at all, I think it is actually real. And they're talking about these chimera, these hybrids between the Nephilim and beasts, and I believe that's where you get the dinosaurs from, etc., etc. But for the case of this study, and why Revelation 12, 23rd of September 2017 is relevant, is it talks about the star, and I saw a star at the fifth trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. I believe that's the dragon in Revelation 12, or Lucifer. It says in Revelation 12 that he was kicked out of heaven by Michael and his angels, and he dragged a third of the stars with him, which is I believe what's happening here. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. These are the chimera of these Nephilim spirits. Now, I don't know if you know anything about CERN, but I believe that on the 23rd of September, CERN are going to breach the veil of the abyss. Now, this key that it says back here in verse 1, the star was given to the key to the shaft of the abyss. I don't believe that's a key that we know about. I believe that it's digital information. And for those of you who don't understand the real Bible narrative, read Enoch, read Jubilees, read Jasher. And the reason why I say that is because those three books alone give the detail of what was really happening back before the flood, about the Nephilim, about the technology that they had, which was taught to them by Azazel and the Watchers. And they were learning about advanced technology that this Luciferian agenda, the American government, the Nazis, which is why the Nazis were so dominant throughout the Second World War. This probably all sounds like a conspiracy theory to the greater number of you, but it's not, man. This stuff is real. It was written before our time, just as it says in Daniel 12:4, where the messenger angel Gabriel took this information. And if you look over time and correlate it to time, you have this plateau from Nimrod up to the 18th century. Then all of a sudden the occult of theosophy comes, rears its head behind the shadows or behind the doors at the Nazis and their higher echelon, their high-ranking officials. They start practicing the occult, this religion of theosophy, where they start sacrificing boys and babies, smiting babies in the womb, as it says. Where is it? Here in the book of Enoch, chapter 69, verse 12. It says, just in the footnote here, it says they created human sacrifice. Who created human sacrifice? The Nephilim. According to 1 Enoch, they drank blood and taught abortion. So you're talking about blood sacrifice. You're talking about embryo smiting, baby sacrifice, or AKA abortion. And then if you go back to Manasseh, he sacrificed his son by fire. He built the high places. And it's all connected. It's Luciferian government. If you look at 9/11, you look at those buildings. They were created by this Luciferian elite of the Nazis and the Americans working together. Now, people will say they weren't working together, they were at war with each other. Well, then learn about Operation Paperclip, and that'll tell you that they were in collusion with each other. To the world, or to what they were exhibiting to the world for public theatre or political theatre, as they state today, they were at war with each other, but behind doors they were not. They were in collusion together. And it's my belief that according to Enoch and according to the operations, the theosophy of Heinrich Himmler and all these people, there's a guy, he was a rocket scientist, I think his name was Verbot Schauder or something. But they were occult worshippers, and the Germans, they figured out how to speak to the watchers from this side. They figured out how to channel through theosophy to talk to these watchers.
This disturbing footage was,
and then they ended up, that's footage of CERN and their occult, and that right there's the goddess Shiva, who incidentally is the goddess of destruction. Now, if you know anything about a guy called Sir Timothy Berners-Lee, he's the guy that came up with the internet. Now, I don't believe that he came up with it. I believe that he got the knowledge, this forbidden knowledge that Azazel taught to men and to the Nephilim, that knowledge from the watchers, how to build the web. Because if you look, there's a plateau of information up until you get to the 19th century. Then all of a sudden, we're on the moon, but before that, you have Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, then you have Operation Fishbowl, then you have NASA, the establishment of NASA by President Dwight E. Eisenhower, who incidentally, his family are Germans. Eisenhower was originally spelt Eisenhauer, and his family moved from Germany in the 1700s, 18th century, to America. Now, there's a lady, I'm just trying to find where I had this stuff. But anyway, Revelation 12 is actually the big picture of Revelation 9. I'm going to go back to Revelation 9 because it describes here. Said this is the chimera that we're talking about. The spirits or the demons. See, a lot of people think that demons are angels. They're not. If you go to Enoch, it tells you point blank that they are the spirits of the Nephilim. They have eternal spirits like angels because they're half angel. And after the flood, they obviously still existed because they were in spiritual form. And if you go to the book of Enoch and Jubilees, it actually tells you that in Noah's day, a demon or a Nephilim spirit called Mastema was causing affliction to Noah's sons. And Noah's sons complained to Noah, and then Noah prayed to Yahweh and asked Yahweh if he could put them in a prison, because obviously he knew that the watchers had been put in a dimensional prison. Based on that, there's a guy called Canaan who happens to be Nimrod's second cousin, I think, or third cousin, but I think it's his second cousin, and he found this book of the Watchers, this text, this ancient text, a pre-flood text of the Watchers, and somehow Nimrod got that and started practicing the Golem, what's now known as the Hebraic incarnations. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know: the Vatican was infiltrated by the Jesuits, and so were the Jews. The Hebrews, the people of God were infiltrated by the Jesuits. The Jesuits are occult Luciferian worshippers, and what they come and they must have found this text of the Watchers and studied it, because if you know about Gollum, incidentally, Gollum, Lord of the Rings, just connecting proofs. This is all going to be in my book, Connect All, where it's going to explain everything. It's a bit hard to explain it on the show, but I'm just trying to make connections so you can do your own research and make them. But there's Gollum, the incantations, these Hebraic incantations, I believe that they came from this book of the Watchers that Canaan had. Now, Canaan was the son of Arphaxad, who was the son of Shem. Nimrod was the son of Cush, who was the son of Ham. And from Ham came all the giants of the post-flood, the Nephilim, the Rephaim, the Anakim. So there's the connection there. But Nimrod, I believe the connection for him was his cousin Canaan found this book of the Watchers. It's in Enoch. This is going to be in my book. Nimrod got a hold of their book somehow. Maybe they worked together. Maybe they were close second cousins, and Canaan told Nimrod about this book. Because Nimrod, for my mind and in my humble opinion, Nimrod was only a normal man. But once he got a hold of this book, he started doing these golem incantations. And from there, he summoned this demon called Mastema, which is in the book of Jubilees. And then from there, Mastema, in Enoch, it talks about Raphael binding a fallen angel called Azazel. And it says in Enoch, I've forgotten the scripture, but this is all going to be in my book. And why it's relevant to 2017, 23rd of September, is that if you do your research, like I've done, you see the connection of Dwight Eisenhower, who incidentally was a leader in Operation Torch and Avalanche and Operation Overlord. You can do your own research on that. His family are Germans. Eisenhower spelled not H-O-E-W-R for the last part of his surname, but H-A-U-E-R. So obviously they changed it so that their surname looked like an English name and not a German name. Now, there's a direct connection between Eisenhower and this woman. See if I can bring that up and show you. But there's this woman who introduces theosophy. She introduces theosophy to America. Now it's reported. Okay. Just wait for it to come up. See, this is about Adolf Hitler. This isn't what I did my research on there, but theosophy and Ariosophy, which is where you get the Aryan race. Adolf Hitler's ideological influences in National Socialism. Now it's reported that Heinrich Himmler and one of Hitler's best rocket scientists, they were involved in this theosophy. Now I'm going to go back to verse 10 or verse 11, because it tells us something very important here of Revelation chapter 9 verse 11. And this is talking about this Chimera army and the Antichrist coming out of the abyss, because it says the Chimera army had the king over them, the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon and in Greek is Apollyon. Funny that, ain't? You have Dwight E. Eisenhower directly involved in Operation Torch, Operation Avalanche, and Operation Overlord. The president of the United States, I believe that there's a direct relationship between him and the Nazis because of his German heritage, and him and Heinrich Himmler. I believe that President Dwight Eisenhower was the start of the occult. Now, obviously, the American nation was founded by Freemasons, but I believe that Dwight Eisenhower and his family had a direct connection with these occult practitioners of the Nazis And that's why you see Operation Paperclip, which was the Nazi scientists and the American government for the rocket Saturn 4, I think it is. But there's correlations, too many connections. This is too many connections, because you have Operation Torch, Operation Avalanche, Operation Overlord, and you have Operation High Jump, which was sanctioned by President Dwight E. Eisenhower, which is incidentally led by a man called Admiral, who chartered the first solo flight over Antarctica. This is where the plot thickens, because from there they discover the dimensional prison of the Watchers with the Germans. They're in collusion with the Germans, which is why you get Operation Paperclip. And they discover this area in Antarctica, which incidentally is why they instituted the Antarctic Treaty, rather, where you get the Magna Carta, which involves Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. And people will think that this is a big conspiracy theory, but it's not, man. It's real. Just do the research. Scripture tells us. So what? And ultimately, this is what the 23rd of September 10 and Revelation 12 sign is about. See, in Nimrod's day, if you can make the connection, Nimrod and his cousin Canaan, they have this book of the Watchers. Nimrod uses that and starts conducting the incantations of the golem, which summons this demon called Mastema, who's in the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees. I think he's only in the book of Jubilees, sorry. Now this demon takes Nimrod, to the plain of Shinar, which is where he builds the Tower of Babel. I don't believe that it was just any old place. I believe that their place was Dudael, which is described to us as the place where Azazel, who's taught the Nephilim and all mankind pre-flood all the forbidden knowledge, advanced technology, advanced knowledge, advanced stone masonry, all of the forbidden knowledge of the heavens, which Yahweh didn't want mankind to have at that time. And from there, Nimrod builds the Tower of Babel, which incidentally is a high place of burnt offering sacrifices, in specific terms, young kids burnt offerings to his Luciferian god Lucifer. And from there, how that translates is he builds based on what Azazel teaches him. He becomes a Gibborim. So the first thing is that he transmutates himself and becomes a Gibborim. And our Gibborim, if you do your research, they have massive brains, 88 elves, which is about 400 feet. This is just their brains. Now, most people will take this information and go, nah, whatever, that's impossible. But if you look at what the Greeks titled the Clash of the Titans, I believe that nomenclature or the appellation system of theirs, they were referring to the pre-flood giants who were just colossal, which is why you get statues like the Colossus of Rhodes and all those statues back in ancient times, which some of them became the 7 ancient wonders of the world. But they're all connected. And the reason why I'm bringing up Nimrod and the Tower of Babel and this ancient advanced technology that Azazel taught him was that Tower of Babel wasn't just a tower trying to reach the heaven. It was a gateway. And it was a gateway. It was a stargate, if you like, or a portal that would allow him to ascend into heaven. Because if you remember the biblical account, it talks about God stepping in, Yahweh stepping in and confusing the languages so that it brought that project to an end. Now, how does that relate to modern times? Well, Azazel was one of the Watchers. Now, if you read Enoch, the book of Enoch, it tells us that the Watchers pre-flood, in particular Semyaza, and there were 200 watcher angels. I believe that five of them, one was put in Dudael, as Enoch says, that was Azazel. And I've already given the connection for that. Nimrod, his cousin Canaan, not to be confused with Canaan, has this book of the Watchers. Nimrod gets a hold of it, does the Golem incantations, summons Mastema. Mastema goes and shows him Dudael, which is a dimensional prison under the ground in the plain of Shinar, which is where Nimrod goes and builds the Tower of Babel. He builds the Tower of Babel, which is the epicenter of Babylon, because he starts convening, he starts doing this theosophy, like the Nazis did, Dwight E. Eisenhower, that connection, which leads on to Operation Paperclip, Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, Operation Fishbowl, the signing and institution of the Antarctic Treaty, NASA, all those, they all happen around almost consecutive years. Admiral E. Byrd was killed in 1957. There's just too many connections. There's too many smoking guns, and then all of a sudden, from the technology of the Watchers, which is what Nimrod had, because the Nazis, they started convening and channeling the Watchers through theosophy, which is how they found out they were down in Antarctica in the first place. Dwight E. Eisenhower utilizes his German connections to connect up with the Nazis, and then America and the Nazis work in collusion down there and start developing these underground bunkers that we know of today. And the Watchers are just giving them this technology. If you have a look at this guy, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee, he's a leading scientist at CERN. Funny that, because I believe that the knowledge for CERN and their portal, they'll tell you that it's a large hadron collider, particle collider, and I don't believe that it's that at all. I believe that what they're trying to do is they're trying to emulate what Nimrod was successful in doing, except for God stepping in. They're trying to breach this veil and let out the nefesh, or the soul of these four angels who are fallen angels, in my humble opinion, and Azazel. And for me, Azazel is the spirit of Nimrod. He will be the Antichrist. And they come out of the abyss. But here's the thing, is that through DNA sequencing, through the location of Nephilim like Gilgamesh and Osiris and other giants, other Nephilim, the powers that be, I call them Nasseran Code, the occult Luciferian elite, the US government, the Nazis, Russia, they're all in collusion with each other. And what they're doing is they're resequencing the DNA, creating avatars for this chimeric army to come out of the abyss, because the body doesn't work without the nefesh. The nefesh is the spirit. So they've harvested all this DNA from all these giants that the Smithsonian has collected and the Vatican have collected over the last 100 years or so, maybe 200 years. And they're reconstituting this DNA, creating avatars. I mean, it's no wonder that Hollywood is preparing us through movies like the X-Men, the Apocalypse, the X-Men, just for starters. Now, if you go back to War of the Worlds, which was a radio program, I believe all of these things that are advertising us through radio back then through the movies now, with the X-Men, Lord of the Rings, which is Lord of the Rings to me is the Nephilim Civil War pre-flood, and you get all these occult-based movies, and then the talk of aliens. I believe that on the 23rd of September, Revelation 12 and Revelation 9 is going to happen. This angel from the abyss called Abaddon in Hebrew or Greek, Apollyon, funny that, NASA, Apollo. Just too many connections. And I believe that on the 23rd of September 2017, NASA, NASA and Co is a subset of organizations, the Vatican, the Smithsonian, the Nazis, CERN. Because if you look at Sir Timothy Berners-Lee created, who's a software engineer at CERN, by the way, he created the World Wide Web. That just came out of nowhere. So you know that this explosion of knowledge from the 19th century into the 20th century is just absolutely phenomenal. And it's because they discovered this occult worship of Lucifer and the Watchers that was the Nazis, which is where they got all their technology from, to almost dominate the world. They penultimately came so close to dominating the world. They get this knowledge and this technology for the Watchers, which is how they built CERN, which is how they built the World Wide Web, and are now connected to everybody through mobile devices such as this. Now, the irony of it is this: is that on the 23rd of September, when this sign tells us these things are going to happen, that Satan is going to get kicked out of heaven, him and his angels. He's got the key. He's this falling star in Revelation 9. He's going to give this information, which I believe is digital information. Like what Anthony Patch talks about CERN and their qubit processors, their quantum computers, and tubulin dimers that process information in ones and zeros. It's just too much connection, too many smoking guns. They're going to open the abyss. Now, before I go any further, that's not to say that these things are going to come straight away, because they're the nefesh of these Nephilim. And the reason why I think that they're Nephilim is because there's an account in Jubilees or Enoch, I can't remember exactly which scripture it was, but it talks about Mastema and the spirits of the Nephilim, which is what demons are. They're the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Now, Mastema was a leader of them post-flood, and him and his demonic cohorts were impinging on Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And they complained to Noah, and Noah asked God if he could put them in an abyss. And Yahweh put all of them except for 10% of them. So he put all the rest of them into the abyss. Now I believe what's going to happen on the 23rd of September is that CERN, based on knowledge from the Watchers and the final key coming down from Lucifer himself, they're going to open up this abyss, release the 4 angels who I believe are the other Watchers or fallen angels pre-flood, who were in cohorts with Azazel, teaching mankind all this forbidden knowledge, this advanced technology for these gateways, for the rocket program at NASA, for all the technology that the Germans had to via the mediums of theosophy and Ariosophy, which is occult practicing, where they learned to channel and talk to these Watchers from our dimension through those dimensional portals and gather information, which then led them to Antarctica, which is how you get all these operations, the collusion of the Nazis and the Americans working together in the advent of NASA and CERN. Now, if you go through and look at Operation High Jump, and look at Operation Torch, Operation Avalanche, Operation Overlord, Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, the death of Admiral Byrd, and then you look at the signing of the Antarctic Treaty. Now, we'll go back before all of these, before Germany, you look at the Magna Carta. You look at the families that are connected to them, the House of Windsor, the Stuart family, which Lady Diana was connected to. I believe that Lady Diana was going to disclose this information, which is why the Illuminati, the Freemasons, NASA and Co is what I call them now, these Luciferian elites, they murdered her. And they murdered her because, and I truly believe this, that she was going to tell the world about what was going on, about their Luciferian worship, about their their occult practices and their worshipping of these small g gods, these fallen angels, etc., etc. But yeah, so all this information that I'm giving to you is based on scripture, is based on months and months of study, and it ultimately comes down to one thing: Satan, who's the great dragon. He's depicted as a star in Revelation 9. Falls down from heaven, gives this digital information to CERN, who incidentally have this scientist called Sir Timothy Berners-Lee. Through that, they open this abyss. Out come the four angels of the Euphrates, which says in Revelation 9, verse 14, and it said to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. This army, this chimera army, which is going back to Masama in Noah's day post-flood, Masama would have had millions of Nephilim demons roaming with him. Now, that particular scripture in Jubilees tells us that Yahweh placed all of them but 10% into the abyss. 200 million strong chimeric army, because they're Nephilims. So they come out looking like scorpions with the tails of scorpions, the breastplate of the body of horses, etc., etc. They're mixed because of what the second or third generation Nephilim were doing in the day of Noah, after the day of Jared, when their parents, the fallen angels, came down and descended upon Mount Hermon. Do all the research, but this is my take on it. So September 23rd, 2017, CERN is going to open the abyss, and they're going to let these fallen angels, Azazel, and the other four angels of the Euphrates, they're going to let them up. These are going to be Azazel is going to be the Antichrist, or Abaddon, or Apollyon. He's going to be the leader. He's going to lead this army. I believe there's four angels of the Euphrates, because it says here, and the four angels who had been kept ready for this hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. So this is what's coming from the September 23rd off or la'af sign in the heavens. This is what's coming, people. This is what I believe is what's going to happen. Remember, you just look at their movie Avatar. So you've got this guy whose soul was being transferred through a machine. And I believe CERN's got one of these machines, and they've got these avatars, which is they've reconstituted the DNA from all these giants, namely Gilgamesh, who they found when they raided Iraq, which is why they went into Iraq. And if you look up a guy called Tom Horn, it's reported from a guy called Steve Quayle, SQ. Quayle said that Tom Horn got an email from a curator at this museum, where it's called the Babylonian Museum in Iraq. Videos of these boxes, these long, big boxes that were reportedly taken after the American impingement on Iraq and Saddam Hussein. So they fabricated this bullcrap story so that they can go there and take these boxes that were reportedly contained the archaeological ancient technology that Nimrod used to build this Tower of Babel, and that they actually found the technology of this Stargate and how to power it. And I believe that was the missing piece that CERN needed, this technology. And how did they know it was there? Because the Watchers told the American government in their collusion with the Nazis. And it all points to CERN opening the abyss on the 23rd of September 2017. watch for the return of the Nephilim, as it says, as Yeshua said, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. So this is big stuff. I've somehow lost my co-host, but I'm going to be calling it for tonight because we started at 8 and I'm real tired. I'm going to have some food, but we'll be back next Friday at 8 p.m. Shanghai time, which is 10 p.m. Australian time and midnight New Zealand time, because this show is for Australasia. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. And with that, here comes the outro music. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. It was cool talking to you. Oh, no. I'm just trying to figure out how to do this. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and hopefully you liked our show. And this is the outro music. Wondering why you can't hear it. Well, that'd be why, because I forgot to turn it back up.